Hello everyone, I'm Flamsy, and welcome to another Pikmin 4 video. Today, we're doing an in-depth analysis of Pikmin 4's 4th trailer, as well as going over various Pikmin 4 related sites, as they hold a bunch of new information as well. Anyway, let's get straight to analyzing. Skipping over the opening shot, which is just the same shot we've seen in the past few trailers, we see a bunch of new things. We first see what looks to be part of the opening cutscene of the game when you first touch down. In fact, I think we saw part of this in the second trailer for the game. Next, we see a napping Bulborb next to a bridge, as well as a redesigned Peckish Aristocrat. In my opinion, the old design was so much better than this, but it's whatever. We see a baby version of the Peckish Aristocrat, which reminds me of how Hermit Crawmads in Pikmin 2 could be found in different sizes. We also see a new hazard, some kind of water spout, which I'm guessing it acts like a fire geyser. We then see a fluffy Mamuta, which basically confirms that the strategy guide is canon since it's the only place where it describes Mamutas as having hair. In the next shot, we see puckering Blinows and a new fish enemy. In the background, we can make out what looks to be a Pearly Clamp, and later on in the trailer, this is basically confirmed. Here we see a new enemy, some kind of avocado elephant armadillo creature. We also see a iced Weevil behind the kettle, as well as many nectar eggs. We also see that the burner is still on, which is kind of weird, and I wonder if we can somehow shut it off. Next, the narrator of the trailer says this.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, repair the damaged Rescue Corps spaceship, and save any castaways you find.
Now, this seems kind of weird, but later on we learn that there are side quests, so maybe we don't even have to do the main campaign at all, and doing the side quests first instead unlocks different endings. I'm not entirely sure what the narrator meant by this, but we had to just wait and see. And, oh yeah, we see Colin laying on the ground unconscious, which probably means he's a castaway. Though, he's not faded out like the other castaways, which is a bit weird. Next, we see the player follow a trail of blue smoke, which is most likely the aftermath of Ochi sniffing out a castaway as seen in the second trailer. In fact, we can see the same blue smoke behind Ochi in this shot. In these following shots, there's not much except the redesigned HUD, which includes a new looking health meter as well as a new sun meter as well. I actually like these changes as the sun meter from the previous games wouldn't work well with a new camera angle. Here we see the blue crystals being collected, and it turns out they're just a regular collectible like gold from Pikmin 3's side stories or mission mode. Keep these shards in your mind though, because later on they're going to be very important. Next, we see what seems to be an idle animation for Ochi where he sneezes, as well as Ochi helping Pikmin carry an object. However, he only has 3 carrying weight, unlike the 10 carrying weight which he had in the second trailer. So this basically confirms the theory that you could upgrade Ochi, which later on in the trailer, that is outright confirmed. Next, we see the house area that we saw on the download card with tomatoes in the sink, some kind of robot minifigure on a stool, and a new enemy on the other side of the room. It looks like a red porcupine enemy. We also see what looks to be a cave entrance on the other side of the room, as well as a floating device of some kind, and since this exists, it basically confirms that humanity in this timeline is much more advanced than us, which could mean that they could colonize other planets like we see in Hey Pikmin. We also see that the burner is still on, as well as many different treasures, including one on some kind of object across from the room, and a frozen treasure. I'm not sure what it is, but it's definitely sparkling. We also see 2 buttons next to the hovering device, which I would guess changes it from going up or down to left or right, or something like that. In the next shot, we see the new desert or beach area. This has skeeter skates, a toady Bloister, and what looks to be a hermit crawmad hole, or maybe even a bug-eyed crawmad hole. We also see a Moai in the top right corner, as well as a new jellyfish enemy. See, that seems to be hovering over the water. Next, we see that Ochi can in fact fight and even take damage, but more importantly, across the bridge on the other side of this valley, we see a peculiar individual, which we'll get to later. Here we learn that treasures in fact repair our ship, not ship parts, as explained by the narrator.
Collect lots of treasures scattered around the planet to fix the spaceship's radar and open up new areas to explore.
Now, does this sound familiar? It should. This is exactly how Sparklium worked in Hey Pikmin. It would repair not only your ship, but also give you upgrades to stuff like your jetpack or your health meter. Oh, and we also see a Game Boy Advance SP, which basically means Nintendo isn't afraid of putting their own products into Pikmin 4, which I'm happy about. Next, we see a huge shot of the beach area where we can see a Pearly Clamp, gold, a star fruit, and some kind of large blue glob, which is probably just another collectible, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. Next, we see a big shot of the park area with nothing new except the fact that we can see that the Bermuda is in fact in this area. Next, we see an adult armored cannon beetle, an enemy that hasn't been seen since the first game, which is super cool. We also see a pair of buttons that likely again change the hovering device that we see in this shot as well. And we can see the kitchen area as well as gold behind the couch and a cave entrance right beside the armored cannon beetle. We also see a staircase to upstairs, which I'm wondering if we can actually go up there. We see some kind of combination safe inside the wall, which I'm not sure how we're going to be able to access. Next, we briefly see the baseball treasure from the Japanese website, as well as the player enter a cave. We then see a new cave with reworked fire geysers that now spew fire in a bigger radius. We then see another new cave that has a lot of ramps, buttons, and boxes. It reminds me of the Clockwork Chasm from Pikmin 3's mission mode. We see the return of bouncy mushrooms as well as a new object, fans, which we see later on in the trailer, act as geysers and will blow the player to a faraway area. We then see the Pikmin use another new object, the air geyser, and then we see a rather large Wollywog fighting the player. Now, as viewers of my channel would know, the only thing known to cause excessive growth in creatures in the Pikmin series is none other than Sparklium, and as we see later on, this seems to be the case. We also see that when the giant Wollywog lands on the ground, it crushes it, which could mean the return of the sand-belching Mearslug or even the Quaggle and Myrclops, because they both interacted with the terrain like this. Also, this cave is very different from the ones we've seen before. In fact, we have seen it before, on the download card. The caves in Pikmin 4 that we've seen before were either just regular caves or very metallic in design. It wasn't like this. This reminds me of the Glutton's Kitchen or the shower room, which were basically just regular rooms deep underground. This room instead is more like a pet store or a terrarium. In the next shot, we see Pikmin carrying grapes, but not like how they did in Pikmin 3. Pikmin 3, they carried each grape one by one, but now they just carry the entire plant. We then see Yellow Pikmin pull down a treasure caught in a web. This web thing must be a new form of an obstacle that we have to deal with. We then see what seems to be the aftermath of Ochi successfully sniffing out a castaway, and we also see that blue glob thing again. We then see what looks to be Olimar covered in fur and have a leaf on its head. The narrator calls him a leafy individual.
This leafy individual just nabbed the castaway. You've got to stop him.
Now, this could be Olimar after the bad ending of Pikmin 1, where he turns into a Pikmin hybrid. However, things we see later on in the trailer, as well as the various sites that have opened up, kind of really deconfirm this theory. But 2 reasons why I don't think it is a divergent timeline is simply because he does not have a black stem and he is wearing his Pikmin 3 suit, not the suit from Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2. I'll talk about the other reasons why I don't think it is a divergent timeline when we get to them. Now, whether or not this is actually Olimar or the creation of some other being is up for debate, but I actually do think it's Olimar after he has been turned into a Pikmin, like in Pikmin's bad ending. As for who the dog is and why it has a leaf tail, I'm not sure. Oh, and we also see the blue onion in the back here. We then see the new 2-player battle for Pikmin 4. It's called Dandori Battle, and it's basically just who can collect the most objects before the time runs out. It seems that whenever this leafy individual kidnaps a castaway, we have to save it through a Dandori Battle. Also, looking back at the download card, Olimar seems to not be a Pikmin, which might mean there might be a way to cure him. Oh, and one last thing. This isn't the first time we've seen characters that can do Dandori battles. We see a completely different character than Olimar to the left of this shot for a split second, and the eShop page completely confirms that there are multiple characters that we fight in Dandori battles. We then see the new hub world, which has never been in a Pikmin game before. Here we can train Ochi and teach him new skills and tricks. These skills can be unlocked by using a collectible called Pup Drive. All the skills that we see here, we have already seen used in gameplay except Heal, and I'm not sure what it does, but maybe it's just healing over time, and upgrading it will make you heal faster. We then find out that this bald guy with glasses creates upgrades and items for us to use. It seems that the crystals we collect are used to create the upgrades. A few of the upgrades we can see are another reason why this can't be a divergent timeline, as the ship named and created the Scorch Guard, Anti-Electrifier, and the Rush Boots in Pikmin 2. So if this is before Pikmin 2, a part of a divergent timeline, these upgrades would never exist. We then meet a new character named Yanni, which lets us access night mode whenever we want to, it seems. We also see Treeborbs, which I talked about in a previous video. They're here, and they're in night mode only, it seems. In night mode, we have to protect structures called luminals, with the help of the glow Pikmin, as the glow sap inside of the luminals attracts various creatures which will try to destroy the luminals to get to the glow sap. Oh, and puffy blowhogs are back. We then see that purples and winged Pikmin are in story mode, as well as a new scorpion boss, ice moth boss, a new ice hazard, and the return of white Pikmin, which means that all main types are in story mode. Oh, and in the last shot, we see what looks like the leftovers from either a battle with Mittites or a battle with Ujidani, which, since there are no Mittite corpses behind, I'm gonna say it's Ujidani. That's all the information from the trailer. However, right after the trailer, they announced Pikmin 1 HD and Pikmin 2 HD, which would release right after the Direct. A demo for Pikmin 4 was also announced to be released on June 28th. The HD versions of Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2 on Switch are probably the best ways to play the game. There are so many bugs and glitches that have been fixed now. However, a few things have been changed here and there, like lack of product placement in the treasures, or the fact that a couple of the treasures are censored. But ignoring that, this is definitely the best way to play Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2, especially now that you can play it on the go. But we still aren't done with all of the Pikmin 4 information we've gotten. The same day the trailer came out in that Nintendo Direct, new websites were opened up. Let's first go over the US website, which has a lot of new information. First off, Sparklium is canon, which means that Hey Pikmin is also probably canon, which makes me very happy that I was right. though it seems that Sparklium's crystallized Sparklium spring form and its seed form are not reappearing, which makes me think that Pikmin 4 maybe takes place before Hey Pikmin, because that is the game that Olimar discovers that Sparklium comes in the seed form. We also learned that only 3 types of Pikmin are allowed to be taken out of these new onions at a time. I think this will be a very contentious point of Pikmin 4, and many people will argue whether this is a good feature or a bad feature, but for now, we just have to wait and see. Anyway, we also learned that Yellow Pikmin retain all their abilities from Pikmin 3, and that Glow Pikmin can stun enemies when they do that ball attack. We also learned that Purple Pikmin have regained their ability to stun, though I wonder if they can destroy boulders and also be immune to wind, like in Pikmin 2 as well. Rock Pikmin are also described as unbreakable, which is very strange given what we learn later on, so just keep that in mind for now. Also, White Pikmin are said to be immune to poison, which means poison is returning. We also get confirmation on the name of the big ship. It's called the SS Shepherd. Again, it's referred to as Sparklium, however it's referred to as a mysterious element, which makes you think that I was completely right about the giant Wollywog turning so big because of the Sparklium it ingested. We also learned that the rescue command post allows the player to accept side missions, which, going back to what the narrator said at the beginning of the trailer, makes me think that we don't have to do the main campaign at all, and doing these side missions might unlock a new ending? I'm not entirely sure, but it's just so weird how the narrator phrased it, with us, the player, choosing to go to save the castaways, even though that seems to be the main goal of the game. In this little section about Ochi, we learned that he is able to jump and destroy the new route obstacles. He also can throw Pikmin himself, which seems to mean that he can be his own captain, basically. Which is very good news, as only having one captain seems to be a downgrade to some people. Not to me personally, but for some people, it is. Moving on, this blurb talks about how there is always tomorrow, which makes me think that there is no day limit or anything like that, like in Pikmin 3 or Pikmin 1. We also learn about the new rewind time feature, and instead of it sending you back to the beginning of the sublevel you were on, or the beginning of the day you were on, it allows you to go exactly where you were 1 minute ago, 5 minutes ago, and so on and so forth. We also learned the name of the small pod. It's called the SS Beagle, continuing with that dog naming scheme. We also learned that once you find a spot, you can just freely land there. You don't have to somehow build it or anything like that. I'm going to assume if there's an enemy on top of that spot though, you're gonna have to kill it first. We also learn about Dandori challenges from the website, which is a little weird. Apparently we have to collect as much treasure as we can within the time limit, but I'm not sure how this will work in story mode. And given that it's called a side mission in the HUD, this must be one of the side missions that was talked about beforehand. Anyway, we see more footage of both of the 2-player modes, the first one being Dandori Battle. There's nothing of note here except the fact that Colin says we can't afford to lose, which is kind of weird. Maybe you can actually lose castaways if you lose, instead of the game letting you be able to do it over, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, we also see our first footage of the 2-player cooperative mode in story mode. It seems the player can shoot pebbles at things, which damage them, and can also throw pick carrots and dog treats to stun and distract enemies. This is a major downgrade from the 2-player story mode in Pikmin 3 Deluxe, but it's fine, I guess. And finally, with the US website, we still see no mention of online play, and at this point, I don't think there's going to be any online play at all. Right off the bat, with the UK website, we have confirmation that the demo will be a short section of the beginning of the game. not just a collection of random stages like Hey Pikmin's demo or Kirby Star Allies demo, for instance. We also get a look at all of the customizable faces for all of the body types in these sets of images. The website also talks about how time moves more slowly in caves, which I'm hoping just refers to time as a gameplay element, not as a canon thing. I would really hate if they explained it in the game that time doesn't move in caves, because that just seems a little weird. It also says that we can discover wild Pikmin in caves, which is a bit weird. Maybe it's talking about Boldman, but it could also just be talking about any types of Pikmin that we can find in caves, which is kind of interesting. We can also see the return of Pyroclastic Snooch and a new lava hazard. Moving on from the UK site, let's go on to the Pikmin Garden, which contains a lot of information, so let's get into it. First off, an article linked in this website about Pikmin 4 and many other Pikmin-related merchandise and games has new screenshots, showcasing a boulder crushing your Pikmin. Now, boulders just don't fall out of the sky unless it's a cave, and obviously it's not a cave. So, does this mean it's the return of the armored cannon larva, or maybe even the decorated cannon larva, given that the boulder seems to be coming at a kind of a curve? Anyway, going back to the Pikmin Garden site, clicking on this tablet with Olimar on it, we can see these profiles for Olimar, Louis, the President, Alf, Brittany, and Charlie. We can also see two other profiles, but they're not available right now. Now, it doesn't really matter what these profiles actually say. However, the most important part is that this is a new Louis model, which probably means that Louis is going to be in Pikmin 4 one way or another. Next, we have notes written by a character named Sharon, who is investigating PNF 404. Their notes basically confirm that this is not a prequel to Pikmin 1 or taking place during Pikmin 1 after its bad ending. Given that they're talking about things like the Copites crashing or Olimar telling everyone about the Pikmin, it can't be after Pikmin 1's bad ending. Interesting of note, it talks about how Sharon was sent by the Interstellar League, when translated at least. This is very interesting, and I wonder if Sharon's actually going to appear in the game, or they're just a character for this website. Anyway, we see Louis in some kind of cutscene in Pikmin 4 maybe, thinking of golden Pikmin carrots, as well as screenshots of all of the Pikmin's discovery cutscenes, including Boldman's, but they're using the Pikmin 2 model, which sadly might mean that they won't appear in Pikmin 4. The Mushroom Pikmin also use their Pikmin 1 models, so they might not appear either. Moving on, we have to talk about this part of the site that's basically its own Piklopedia. And in this group photo, we can see the return of the Honey Wisp, the Swooping Snitch Bug, the Baldy Longlegs, and one of the Jelly Floats. We also see what looks to be the Iridescent Fleet Beetle. It might be a redesign, it might not be, and we can also see the Bread Bug, which is going to return. This up-close shot of the adult Cannon Beetle also shows a lot of new features that weren't in the original. I like its redesign, though I kind of wish they just stuck to the Pikmin 1 design, just because, I don't know, I've always seen it that way. Moving on to the Pikmin logs, the Pikmin actually have a scientific name now, and strangely enough, the Rock Pikmin is mentioned to be able to be broken if enough force is applied, which is very strange given that the US website describes them as unbreakable. Moving on to the White Pikmin's log, we can see that the Doodle Bug is set to return, as well as the Orange Bulborb. Strangely enough, the poison is now green, which might mean that Mungedweevils are green, but I don't know. Moving on to the ground enemies, we can see that the Skitterleaf, Bearded Amprat, and the Scutterchuck are set to return. Interestingly, the Bulborb's log talks about infighting between Bulborbs and smaller Bulborbs and how they might eat each other, which is very cool actually. The Scutterchucks can now also carry bomb rocks, which is extremely dangerous. The puckering Blinow also have different designs, whether it's mating season or not, something that was mentioned in Pikmin 3 Deluxe. And finally, the Pecos Aristocrab's redesign is actually redesigned. It is in a new type of Aristocrab, and the Toady Blaster can spit out ink, just like in Pikmin 3. But we are still not done yet. Nintendo has just released another trailer on their Play Nintendo YouTube channel, and let's go over it briefly. First off, the panic state from Pikmin 2 returns whenever Metites are around. We then see all of the Pikmin's introduction cutscenes, which, strangely enough, winged Pikmin seem to come from a Candy Pop Bud. Now, given that they're a wild Pikmin, this might just mean that we get winged Pikmin from a Candy Pop Bud, but then we get their onions later. But maybe winged Pikmin don't have pellets and they don't reproduce like the other types. We also see this enemy again. We haven't seen him since the second trailer of Pikmin 4, and we're still not sure what he does. Anyway, the only other new thing in this trailer is a puzzle piece and a magnifying glass treasure, as well as the fact that Ochi can defeat blowhogs by jumping up at them and biting them, and the new end of day cutscene. Anyway, that's it for this trailer. That's all the Pikmin 4 information that we have to go over. There are some previews coming out, and they have new video and images, but I don't really want to spoil you guys since the demo is coming out tomorrow. Anyway, I'm Flamsy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!